Michael the Count Bisping was never supposed to be a champion. He was the underdog, the gatekeeper, the guy who always fell just short. For a decade, he battled in the UFC's most unforgiving division. A tough-as-nails Brit with a sharp tongue and an even sharper wit. He was always in the mix, serving some of the most savage knockouts we've ever seen, but also suffering some of the most heartbreaking losses. He was the fighter everyone respected, but few believed would ever hold the belt. But Bisping was a fighter who was fueled by a fire that burned brighter than any setback. His story is one of resilience, reinvention, and ultimately, redemption. This is the story of a man who defied the odds, silenced his doubters, and became a legend. Born on a military base in Cyprus and raised in Clitheroe, Lancashire, England, Michael Bisping's journey to the octagon was anything but typical. He wasn't a celebrated wrestling prodigy or a jiu-jitsu black belt.
I started doing martial arts when I was 8 years old.
He was a working-class kid who found his calling in the world of combat sports. He started with kickboxing, becoming a two-time British champion, but the bright lights of mixed martial arts were calling. He made his professional MMA debut in 2004, quickly making a name for himself in the UK scene with his relentless pressure and heavy hands. He tore through the competition and was dubbed the Great British Hope. Bisping's talent caught the eye of the UFC, and he earned a spot on the third season of The Ultimate Fighter. He dominated the show, showcasing his striking prowess and finishing all of his opponents to win the light heavyweight tournament. He was raw, he was brash, and he was undeniably entertaining. Bisping had arrived. It seemed as though his career was set to skyrocket. Bisping quickly became a fan favorite in the UFC, known for his exciting fighting style and his willingness to speak his mind. He racked up wins against notable opponents, but he also faced his first taste of adversity. A controversial split decision loss to Matt Hamill, whom many believe Bisping had defeated, left a bitter taste in his mouth. He decided to drop to middleweight, a division that was arguably the toughest in the entire UFC, a division packed with killers, legends, and future Hall of Famers. He was stepping into the Shark Tank. The move to 185 pounds proved to be a wise decision, but the path to the top was fraught with challenges. He faced a murderer's row of opponents: Chris Leben, Dan Miller, Yoshihiro Akiyama. He traded wins and losses, establishing himself as a top contender, but always falling short in those crucial title eliminator fights. He wasn't just losing, he was losing in devastating fashion. A brutal knockout loss to Dan Henderson at UFC 100 became one of the most iconic and replayed knockouts in UFC history. He suffered a decision loss to Chael Sonnen, a fight that many felt he won. Then came another devastating knockout loss, this time to Vitor Belfort, a fighter who was later revealed to have been using performance-enhancing drugs. This fight caused a detached retina that would go on to be a career-long issue. Each loss chipped away at his championship aspirations, fueling the narrative that Bisping was a good fighter, but not good enough. He was labeled a gatekeeper, the guy who would always be close but never quite there. These were defining moments that would have broken lesser men. The knockout at the hands and knee of Henderson was brutal. The controversial decision loss to Sonnen stung, and the high kick from Belfort, which detached his retina, threatened to end his career altogether. Bisping was forced to undergo multiple eye surgeries, facing the very real possibility that he might never fight again. But giving up wasn't in his vocabulary. This is a man who, when faced with a career-ending injury, decided that he would fight with one eye. But the Count refused to be counted out. He battled back, defeating Kung Lee and Talis Ladies. Then came the fight that changed everything, a main event showdown against Anderson Silva, the greatest middleweight of all time. Though Silva was past his prime, he was still a legend. Silva was a fighter many considered to be unbeatable. Bisping, the underdog as always, fought the fight of his life. He went toe-to-toe with Silva, dropping him at the end of the third round in a moment of sheer chaos and controversy. Many to this day believe the fight should have been stopped then and there. Bisping, bloodied but unbowed, survived the onslaught and won a unanimous decision victory. It was a monumental upset, a victory that reignited his career and silenced his critics, if only for a moment. Just a few months later, Bisping received the call he'd been waiting for his entire career. Chris Weidman, the then middleweight champion, was injured. Luke Rockhold, the man who had previously defeated Bisping, needed an opponent. Bisping, on just 17 days' notice, stepped up to the challenge. He was a massive underdog, written off by almost everyone. But Michael Bisping had other plans. He had spent his entire career being the underdog. It was a role he was used to. In one of the most shocking upsets in UFC history, Bisping knocked out Rockhold in the first round, becoming the UFC Middleweight Champion. The count had finally reached the summit. The doubters were silenced. The gatekeeper had become the king.
Conceive, believe, achieve.
Bisping's post-fight speech was iconic. Conceive, believe, achieve, a mantra that had carried him through years of hardship. He had proven that anything is possible with hard work, determination, and an unwavering belief in yourself. He was a champion. Against all odds, he was the champion. He would go on to defend his title against his old nemesis, Dan Henderson, in a thrilling 5-round war. Avenging his earlier loss in a fight for the ages, he then faced a young, hungry Kelvin Gastelum, just 3 weeks after losing his title to Georges St-Pierre, suffering a knockout loss. It was a fight he probably shouldn't have taken. But that was Bisping, always ready to fight, always ready to prove himself. He was a warrior until the very end.
After the Gastelum fight, I went to a party with all my team. We went to a club, and because it was dark, I kept seeing this flash out of the corner of my good eye. I realized there's no flash going on. It's just my eye, and every time I look left, it flashes.
Michael Bisping retired from MMA in 2018, leaving behind a legacy that will never be forgotten. He was inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame in 2019, a testament to his incredible career and his impact on the sport. He transitioned seamlessly into the role of commentator and analyst, becoming one of the most beloved and respected voices in the sport. His podcast, Believe You Me, is one of the most popular MMA podcasts out there. Michael Bisping's story is more than just a highlight reel of knockouts and submissions. It's a story of perseverance, resilience, and the power of the human spirit. He was never the most naturally gifted athlete, but he made up for it with sheer grit and determination. He proved that you don't have to be the biggest, the strongest, or the fastest to achieve your dreams. All you need is heart, hard work, and an unwavering belief in yourself. He was the fighter who refused to give up, the underdog who became a champion, the count who conquered the world. Michael Bisping, a true legend of the octagon and an inspiration to us all. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out. And while you're here, check out one of the videos on the screen. You're going to love what's next.